Our next question comes from Lyndal Curtis.
I'd like to ask a question first to you, Mr Abbott, then Mr Rudd, about aged care. Well, it's about 6 million voters in this election are aged 50 and over. 2 million of those are aged 70 or over. That's a lot of people who are either thinking about care for themselves or their parents. The government made a major change in policy legislated earlier this year with almost no publicity. Mr Abbott, you don't have a detailed aged care policy. In your Real Solutions booklet, I think your aged care statement ran to about a paragraph. What would a coalition government do? And Mr Rudd, can you explain what the central changes are and whether there would be any more?
Thanks, Lyndal. Look, all of us absolutely accept and understand that we do need better aged care systems. Most of us have had aged relatives in aged care institutions of one sort or another. I've certainly had both of my grandparents in aged care institutions. They're good, but we want them to be better. Essentially, our policy will be about reducing the paperwork that aged care providers face, because if they're spending less time doing bureaucracy, they'll have more time and more money to spend on providing better care.
But the government's changes were quite wide-ranging. They went to not only making the process easier, but looking at how aged care is paid for, how people pay for it themselves. What will you do on that policy?
Well, I accept that it was quite a detailed set of changes, and it was largely based on a report by the Productivity Commission. I thought that the Productivity Commission report was a good report, as did my Shadow Minister, Senator Concetta Fierravanti-Wells. On this issue, there isn't an enormous difference between the Coalition and the Government, but we do need to try to ensure that the providers, that the nurses, that the other workers in these aged care centres who do such a terrific job and are so helpful to very vulnerable Australians, don't have to spend as much time on paperwork as they currently do under a paper-based accountability system.
Will you implement those Productivity Commission recommendations?
Well, we have no plans to make significant changes to the system that the government's put in place.
Prime Minister.
Aged care is a vital issue, and it's important that you've raised it here. It is a growing challenge for the country as our population ages, and any country worth its salt is seeking to deal with this in an effective way. In terms of the core elements of what we've put forward, part of it goes to how it's financed, part of it goes to another core element, which is how do we enable people to age with dignity in a home environment as well. And frankly, can I just make one point about that? It goes back to the National Broadband Network. Through more attentive and accurate care systems which can be delivered online, as we roll out this system, aged care is going to be a huge beneficiary in terms of monitoring a person's health and well-being, bringing in one-on-one treatment when it's needed, and to make it better for families, and particularly for those of us who have had aged parents and who have seen the needs which lie ahead. There's one other thing I'd say as well, and Mr Abbott just mentioned the workforce. I agree with him. Our nurses out there do a fantastic job in the aged care sector, more broadly across the health sector. One of the things they have always been worried about, and I've dealt with many of them in my own electorate, is whether if there is any future change, as Mr Abbott has indicated, to the Fair Work Act, what will happen to their industrial conditions. They've said this to me 1,000 times. They're deeply worried about it. We need to have more people attracted to working in that sector, caring for people in aged care homes, but also becoming part of that professional network of carers which assists in caring for people more at home using the new technologies which can do that.
But you don't see any further change to your policy?
I'm of the view, and I note very carefully what the Productivity Commission has said, I believe because this is a growing challenge for the nation, this must be kept under continuing review. It's only fair to seniors who have served our country so well that they are guaranteed of proper care into the future.